Hi, it's Miss Donna with Raleigh Parks Recreation and Cultural Resources. This video is part of our At Home with Nature series, The Amazing Life of a Tree. Yes, trees are amazing. They really are. They fill up our sky and they give us lots of things. Trees give us clean air to breathe. Trees give us food to eat, like nuts and fruits. And trees give us wood that we use to make our homes and our furniture and paper. Trees give us shade on hot days. And not to mention, trees are fun to climb. And trees are also important for wild animals too. Many animals use trees for shelter and for food. So trees really are amazing living things, and they have an incredible life story. So we are going to be tree detectives. We are going to try to find some clues and solve them. And while doing so, we are going to see how trees grow and change. So get ready. Here comes our first clue. Listen carefully. I hold great power inside, for a tiny tree hides within. I'm covered with a protective coat, just waiting for the right time to begin. What am I? Did you guess? Tree seed. Trees begin their lives as seeds, and most trees will produce lots of tree seeds in their lifetime. And that's a good thing, because most of those seeds will be eaten by hungry animals, but some will grow to become magnificent giant trees. On the outside of every tree seed is a covering or a coat, and that protects what's inside. And inside of every tree seed is a tiny tree just waiting to grow. Sometimes tree seeds have a fleshy coat on the outside. It's called a fruit. And sometimes tree seeds are hiding inside of seed carriers. But no matter how they're packaged, seeds are the first stage of life for a tree. Our next clue says, after water has softened my coat and my seed begins to warm, a woody stem will shoot from the ground and small branches with leaves will form. What am I? It's a young tree, isn't it? So at first, when our seed begins to grow or germinates, a young seedling will form, and then that will grow to become a young tree called a sapling, a tree sapling. And this is a sweet gum tree sapling here at the park. And I wonder what it's going to take for this young tree to grow into a great big giant sweet gum tree one day. Well, you're going to guess the things that trees need to grow. I'm going to give you some clues. Here comes your first clue. Trees need sunshine. Trees need sunshine. They use it in the leaves of the tree to make food that the tree needs to live. And trees also need other things. Let's see, here comes your second clue. Trees need water. Trees need lots of water. They're very thirsty things, and they use the water in the leaves of the tree to make food. Trees also need this. See if you can guess. Trees need air. They use parts of our air in that food making process in the leaves. Good. Trees also need this. It's your clue. See if you know what it is. Trees need soil. They use nutrients in the soil to grow, and they also put their roots in the soil, and that makes them stable in the ground so they don't fall over in the wind. Trees also need this. Here's your clue. Trees need space. They need space so they're not competing with other trees in order to gather those other items. So let's get this straight. For trees to grow well, they need bright sunshine. They need lots of water. They need clean air. They need rich soil. And they need enough space. They get all those things. We're going to see what comes next in the life of a tree. Here comes our next clue. It says, I'm growing tall, perhaps the tallest thing you ever did see. My many parts work together to create a wondrous factory. What am I? Let's see. Is it a grown tree. This one's a tall one here at the park. I've got something for you to do. You can head outside and find a tall tree. And once you do, stand next to the tree and take your eyes to the very base of the tree where it meets the ground. And then very slowly take your eyes all the way up the tree's trunk to the very top. Trees can grow quite tall. You know, giant sequoia trees, they are massive trees. They can grow to be 250 feet tall, and their trunks can be 20 feet wide. And those giant sequoias are also among the world's oldest trees. They can live over 3,000 years. It's quite a tree. From the tiny root hairs that are buried in the ground, all the way up the trunk, all the way to the top of the tree and the leaf crown, every part of the tree works together like a factory. It's a food-making factory. Trees are plants, and plants are producers. They make their own food. So all these parts work together, and the trunk of the tree supports the tree, and it carries water up from the roots all the way up to the top of the tree, to the leaves. The leaves are the food-making part, and they use parts of our air, they use water, they use sunshine, and they make food. And that process is called photosynthesis. Pretty amazing. Let's see what comes next in the life of the tree. Our clue says, although I am no longer creating food in my leaves, I'm still standing tall. I'm home for much wildlife. Although with a fierce wind, I might fall. What am I? Can you guess? Tree's no longer living. It's a dead tree, but it's still standing, and it's called a snag. So all living things will eventually finish their lives, including trees. And when a tree finishes its life, we can take a slice of its trunk and we can tell a lot about the tree's story. We can look at its annual rings. Every year of life, the tree adds a layer of growth to its trunk. So once we have a tree slice, when the tree finishes its life, we can count the number of years the tree lived. And we can also see years where it had lots of growth, maybe some years where it didn't have as much growth. Maybe it didn't get enough water, or maybe it was competing for sunshine with other nearby trees. So once a tree has finished its life, it might not be living, but it's still giving, and it can give a home for lots of wild creatures. So we're gonna see which wild creatures are living inside of this snag. So you're gonna guess. I'll give you some clues. The first animal, it's a mammal like us, and it flies though, and it loves to eat mosquitoes. Can you guess? Is it a bat? Here's our bat. Here comes another animal coming out of the snag. It's an animal that's a bird. It's the kind of bird that loves to eat bugs that are just beneath the bark of trees, so it makes tapping sound on the trees. You know what it is? It's a woodpecker. Good. Comes in the last one. This is an animal that's an amphibian. It began its life in the pond, and it was an egg, and then it was a tadpole, and then when it was grown, it came to the forest to live in the trees, and makes a lot of sound at night. It hangs in the trees with its sticky feet. It's a tree frog. Good. So our tree is continuing its life story. It's no longer a living tree. It's still standing, but it's a dead tree. But it still has a lot to give. There's one more clue we need to uncover to see where the story goes next. And our final clue says, although my days as a tree have finished, and on the ground I lay, crawling creatures live within me, and my wood will soon decay. What am I? Did you guess? A fallen dead tree. Yes, and after a tree has finished its life and it's fallen to the forest floor, it is going to decompose. It's going to break down. There'll be all these earth-making creatures living in it and eating it and tunneling through it and turning it into soil. Soil for a new tree seed to grow within. So it's a cycle. It's a cycle that begins with a seed, and then a seedling, and then a sapling, and then a giant grown tree, and then perhaps a standing dead tree. and then a tree that's fallen to the forest floor to decompose and become soil for a new tree seed to grow. Wow, the life of a tree really is amazing.